Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video I will be making a halter neck dress with this lovely fabric that I have here. I've had it for a while, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to use it for, and the halter neck dress just seems very appropriate because it's free and you don't need to do so much manipulation, and I want something that will just let this fabric be itself basically. So for this I'm lining it with black lining because it's a very light material. It's see-through, so we need to cover it up. I'm using my basic bodice pattern. I have a video on my channel showing how to draft this. I know it's short, but I'm going to extend it to the length that I want. So since I'm drafting an A-line dress, I will just extend it out to the appropriate length and width that I want. So I'll start with the front bodice. So I'll start by placing the front bodice on a fresh pattern paper. Just make sure the center front is straight because that part needs to be straight. And then next I'm just going in to measure my armhole. I need to get half of that point, half of the armhole, because we need to do some modification to the pattern. And once I get half of the armhole, I'm going to mark that point and just label it A. Then I'll mark about 0.75 inches beneath that point and label it B. Now I'll connect the 2 points to my waist dart, to where my waist dart ends, and I'm going to slash through because we need to close that dart. We need to do like some tightening around the armhole area, and I'm just going to slash and close the new points, the new darts that we created, as you guys can see me do here. And this will also widen up the waist darts more, creating more volume for our dress. And now I'm just going in to adjust that new armhole line. So now go ahead and trace that onto fresh pattern paper. Then I'm going to extend my dress length to my required length. I'm just making the extension from the waist point, marking from the waist point up to the length that I want. I decided to go for 32 inches because I want a mini gown. So I'm just going ahead to connect the hem because the hem is not going to be a straight line since it's an A-line gown. So once that is done, I'm extending my center front all the way to the bottom, and then I will extend the side waist point as well all the way to the bottom. Just decide on how wide you want the hem to be, then extend it all the way to the hem. I started cutting it out before I realized, oh wait, I haven't done the necessary adjustments to the top. So I went ahead to remove my pattern. Then I measured 0.75 inches below my underarm point because I need to lower the armhole, and then I also measured 0.75 inches inside to tighten the bust area because we need the bust area to be firm. And then I'm going in to connect the new point, and now I'll go ahead and create the halter neck line that we all know. So basically I'm going to connect right from the tip of my neck point down to the new point that we marked. So I'm just going in with a red pen so you guys can see, and that's the shape I decided to go for. So that's my front pattern, which I'm labeling there. I'm going to need to cut that on fold, and I'm going ahead to roll my grain line. Now I can go ahead and cut it out. So that's the front piece over there. Now we'll go ahead and work on the back piece. So I'm going to do basically the same thing I did there. I was just checking that I had enough pattern paper. So I'm going to measure half of my armhole again, get the midpoint, and mark that point A, measure 0.75 inches below and mark that point B, and then connect it to the waist dart. So I'm going to go in by 0.75 inches as well and go down by 0.75 to lower the armhole. So I'll go ahead, open up the waist dart so I can close that new dart that we created on the armhole. So once that is done, I'll paste it on fresh pattern paper and measure out my required length from the waist point again. When you're extending length, always extend from the waist point, and then I'm going in to connect my center back and side back to the hem. Now I'm just going ahead to trace my back pattern onto the fresh pattern paper. And now I'm going in to create the halter line effect just like we did for the front. And this is the result. Now I can go ahead and cut it out. At this point, I wasn't really sure the pattern was going to work, so I decided to test it out on a light material I had at home that I did not mind using. And yes, I cut the front and the back. I cut the front on a fold and cut 2 pieces of the back. My cornrows don't look so good, so the back I had came in handy. So I just wanted to show you guys the result. I think it works honestly because I did not close the back yet. Since this is just a test, I didn't think that was necessary. So once the back is closed, this is going to be firm, and this is not a very this is a very lightweight fabric, so that's why it's a bit frill over here. So yeah, but I think this works. I'm actually blown away, guys. I am impressed, because when I was doing this, I wasn't entirely sure it was going to work. So testing it out and seeing that it works just makes me so happy. Let's get back into the tutorial so we can make our pretty dress. So after testing it, I felt it was a bit too long, so I went ahead to shorten it by 1 inch all around. I also shortened the back, so that's what you can see me doing here. And I'm just labeling the back. Now it's time to cut out our fabric, so I went ahead, folded my fabric. With this fabric, you just want to make sure that everything is properly aligned, and I'm just pinning it in place so I can go ahead and cut it out. And I'm adding my seam allowance because I did not add seam allowance to the pattern, so I'm adding my seam allowance on the fabric. So now I'm just marking where I want my lining to end. So once that is done, I'll go ahead, fold it to the point where I want my lining to end and place it on the lining to cut it out. I'm also going to add my seam allowance because, like I said earlier, there's no seam allowance on this pattern, so don't forget to add seam allowance. And now I'm going ahead to cut out the lining. So yeah, I have my front pieces, my back pieces, and the lining, and I also cut out a rectangular strip for the neckband because I want this to have a neckband that I can tie at the back. So I cut out the lining and the main fabric because the main fabric is so light, so you sort of need something to hold it in place to make it firm. So that's what I'm showing you guys here. Now it's time to sew. So to sew, I'm going to start by joining the front to the back lining and the front to the back fabric. So I'll simply join the side seams together, and I'll also join my center back. So once that is done, you guys can see it's a very light fabric, so the lining is sort of going to help us hold it in place. That is even one reason why we need the lining even more. So I left the upper part of the center back open because I want it to be opened. Basically, that's the effect I'm going for. So now once that is done, I'll just join the tips together like 1/2 inch, just with the extra seam allowance that we left. I will do that for both the lining and the fabric. So I'm done doing that. Now I'll go ahead and sew right sides together of the lining to the fabric, the neckline, even though I realized later on that this wasn't necessary, but I had done it already. So I'm going to show you guys because I want you guys to learn from my mistakes basically. So I'm just arranging it down to, you know, making sure my pleats are in place before going ahead to sew it, because this is a very light fabric, so you need to be careful when working with it. So you can see that's what it looks like right now. It looked really neat actually, but at this point I realized, oh wait, I'm going to attach a neckband, so this wasn't necessary. So yes, that's why I said it was a mistake. I had to go into losing it out later on. So now I decided to join the right sides of the armhole together. This was also not necessary, or this was also not the right way to do it, but I'm just going to show you guys because, you know, we are going through the process together. So I joined the right sides of the fabric armhole to the right side of the lining armhole. Basically, I joined the right sides of the armhole together, and I also joined the right sides of the back together, of the center back together. So guys, guess what? It was after I finished sewing the armhole together, I realized that, oh wait, there is no way I can actually turn this if the neckline is also sewn. So I guess, yeah, I actually need to go in and loosen. So I already started doing that. So I'll just finish loosening it, and yeah, and now I have to sew it right on top without like turning it. I hope you guys get it. So it turns out that I actually cannot sew the armhole like together and then turn it. It just wouldn't work. So yes, like that is what I'm still struggling with here. So you guys can see, honestly, I had never thought about this. So it's kind of just stuck here. It won't turn. Yeah. So for this side, I had to go in and basically just loosen out the tip, and then I was able to turn it. So I guess what I'm going to do now is just join the tip together like this or something. Anyway, I'm figuring it out. So funny that the styles you think would be so easy and I'll be done in like 30 minutes, you end up just, it's almost like the style is mocking you, like ha ha ha, you think you can be done with me in 30 minutes, ha. I'm going to attack you from a place you never thought was possible. Okay, so I'll go ahead now, loosen out the tip of this other bit as well. That's this bit here, so I can turn it just like I've done this place. And then I would have to figure out how I want to finish up this place. But I guess I'll just finish up this upper part and just sew this bit down. And do the same thing for the back and just sew it together like this, like inside out, since the band is still going to go over here anyway. But yeah, I'm really shocked, like anyway. Please guys, let me know in the comment section if you've experienced this or if I'm the one just not knowing how to turn it well, because I'm just so confused, or if this is actually physically impossible. Yeah, okay, so let me just show you guys what I did with the other one. So over here I basically had joined the shoulder tips and then I sewed the right sides together, hoping that I could just turn it and it was going to work, but it didn't work. It basically did not work. It just wouldn't work. Yeah, you guys can see exactly, it's not working. So for this, I had to go in, loosen out this shoulder seam, and then I was able to turn it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the other bit, because I wanted to be done with this before now, but I had to struggle a bit with that other side. So I'm going to loosen out this shoulder tip now, And then yeah, after going in to make the necessary changes, I was finally able to turn it, and this is what it looks like right now. The back turned without any incidences, which is a good thing. Now I'll go ahead and just sew the shoulder tips together. So I'll just sew the shoulder tips right sides together. It's just like half an inch, since that's just the allowance for us to sew on the neckband. And I'll also go ahead and join my neckband strips together because I didn't have a long continuous neckband. So I'll just join the strips together, and then we'll attach the neckband and we're done. So this is what I did. I joined the neckband strips together, and I also sewed the fabric onto the lining. And I thought at this point it was quite long, so I went in to cut it a bit shorter. And now I'm simply going to sew right sides of the neckband together, so you guys can see the way I'm folding it, and I'm going to make sure to finish up the edge as well. So for this, I'm going to measure my neckband, my neckline, and see what I have. So what I have there is 13 inches. So I'm going to divide that into 2. That will give me 6.5, and then I'll mark the center point of my neckband and then measure. I'm just snipping that center point so I can know where the center of my neckband is, and then I'll measure 6.5 inches from that center point to both sides and just mark it. So when I'm sewing my neckband together, I'll make sure to leave that space in the middle unsewn, because that is what we're going to use to attach our neckband to our neckline. I hope you guys understand. So I'm going to sew right sides together but leave that middle part unsewn. When I'm done, I'm going to show it to you guys. So this is what it looks like right now. I have glitters all over my hands just trying to turn it because this fabric has a lot of glitters. So you can see the middle part, I left it unsewn because now we're going to place that right side to the wrong side of our fabric. So I'm just marking the middle of my front so I can place it accordingly. So I'll just pin that in place, the right side of the neckband to the wrong side of the fabric. That's the inner part of the fabric. So I'm pinning it down, and then I'll go ahead and sew that down. And once that is done, I will flip it over to like close the neckband, as you guys can see me doing here, and then I will edge stitch it. So I'm going to fold my seam allowance in just that way, and then I'll edge stitch it down. I'll pin it down. So that's it, it's all pinned down, and now I'll take it to my sewing machine and sew it. And after sewing, this is what it looks like, guys. It was looking so good. It just looked very regal. I really like it. So I went back in to make a few changes, and I just wanted to show you guys what I did before I go ahead to finish up the hem. So I hope you guys can see what I'm showing. So basically, because it's a transparent material, it's actually not showing, but I just did not want to risk that seam there showing through the fabric. So I wanted to cover up that seam and make sure it was on the inside. So I already corrected this side. So basically I loosened it and redid it such that the seam is on the inside, so that when this fabric closes, you actually cannot see any seam. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. So I'll loosen that out and re-sew it such that that seam is on the inside. But if you're not having a transparent material, this isn't a problem. But if you're having a light material like me, you can do this before you sew. So what you can do, instead of sewing right sides together, you sew the right side of the fabric to the wrong side of the lining. So that way, by the time you cover it up, it's the right side that is showing. So yeah, this is it. So I decided not to hem the main fabric because it's not a fabric that frays, so I'll just leave it like that and finish up the hem of the lining. So this is the result. It's so nice. I really like it. That's the back opening over there, and you guys can see it's actually so nice. I think this would be so great for a date night with strappy heels. And that's it for this tutorial, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.